Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you a ready-to-use tool for correcting track lineage trees using TrackMate, and we are going to compare it with the segment linking algorithms of TrackMate. So for this, I'm just going to start from scratch. First, we launch Fiji, and I'm going to open a 3D plus time dataset for which I want to do the tracking on. So oneat is the program which can detect dividing cells, mitotic cells, and other action event categories of cells that you train it on. And TrackMate-oneat is an extension of TrackMate which can correct for the track lineage trees using this additional information that I feed into the process of tracking. And I'm going to and that's what I'm going to demonstrate here with this dataset. So this dataset consists of these cells in one channel over time, and in the second channel is the segmentation image. So once you have such a data set, you can actually use TrackMate, uh, the integer label detector, to find these cells in using the segmentation image, and then you can do the tracking with the segmentation image in one channel and the raw image in the other channel. So the intensity of the cells is in one channel, whereas their locations is in the second channel where you have the segmentation. So you just use this label image detector, select the channel where it is in, and just to make things a bit clear, I'm going to use the channels tool so I don't see actually these integer labels. I just see the raw image to keep the things clear. So you can see in pink now you have these cells which have been detected, and this is the first step that you need for doing the tracking. So let's try the LAP tracker, and since it's an 8-bit image, I'm going to put some cost functions, but they're not going to be intensity based. So since it's 8-bit image, I'm going to just use the quality, which is size of the cells in pixels, and the numbers that I'm putting here are actually optimized values that I get using the TrackMate helper for finding optimal parameters for this max distance for frame to frame linking, and then segment gap closing between these particular time frames using this distance. And of course, again, I'm going to put uh, a cost function of quality, and I'm going to allow the tracks to split. So I'm going to allow for divisions, and the optimized setting that I actually got was 10. And I'm going to also use quality here. So this is like the best setting that you can actually put in your tracking program in TrackMate for the LAP tracker to actually find these kind of tracks. So first, let me not actually veto anything. I'm going to keep all of these tracks here, and I'm going to see if I just do this by default, what was the quality of my tracking that I would get. So I'm mostly concerned here about mitotic cells, so I'm just going to move and try to find these mitotic cells and see if they are actually the correct mitotic cells. For example, this one, it actually is a correct one, so it divided here, so this one is a good detection. Both the mother and daughter cells are probably recognized, or maybe it's a mistake because I think there's a mislink here, because this one is the mother, and after it splits, I think this isn't the daughter. So sometimes it may happen that you can find the proper dividing cell, but then your tracking starts to follow a cell which is actually not a part of the mother cell, right? That kind of mistakes is there. And then you have these mistakes where nothing happened, there was no division, but it was recognized as a dividing cell. Let's find some more mitotic cells. this one here. This maybe it could be a dividing cell. This one is a cell which is in top left region, and this wasn't a dividing cell, so it was a confusion because the cell came from under the Z, so it was confused as a dividing cell, but it actually was not. And here we have another one. This is a bit complicated, so cells cannot divide like this, so this is probably a mistake 2 times in the same track. So, and these kind of mistakes can become very hard to correct if you have a lot of tracks. Right now I'm only using a test data set for which I have the ground truth, and even here I can see that there are a lot of mistakes which would have to be corrected, and the whole data set is actually a much bigger field of view, and correcting for these tracks would take a lot of effort. So when you have lineage trees of dividing cells, you kind of want to have them correct that if it's shown as a dividing cell, it should really be a dividing cell. So you want a higher rate of true positive in this particular kind of lineage trees, and using the default LAP settings, you kind of get this result, right? And now what I'm going to show you is how to use ONeach to actually correct for these cells. So if you use simple LAP tracker, you are only going to get the frame to frame linking, and you use the same parameters that you have found are optimal, and now it will not find any dividing cells by default. So it will finds about 452 tracks. If you look at the track scheme now, this will not contain any dividing cell because this algorithm doesn't give you divisions. So these are the raw lineage trees, these are the raw tracks that you have, which contain just the linking of the cells in from frame to frame. And I'm going to use this to try to find divisions based upon my division detector that actually already has given the results as a CSV file. So if I launch the ONeat corrector, and I can load that CSV file of mitotic events where I have written the locations of the mitotic cells at the given time, right? So it's t, y, x coordinates which are contained in this CSV file. And the time gap between TrackMate and ONeat events is like if ONeat says it's a division and TrackMate also says it's a division, what is the plus minus that they can actually say it's a dividing cell? And then if they are within this range, then you don't have to correct that particular track ID. Otherwise, this track ID has to be corrected. And if you want to veto some events by a score threshold, you can actually put the number here between 0 and 1. And then you can either break the mitotic events if you, for example, use the LAP tracking where you have something to break, or you can create mitotic events where using the locations of this mitotic cells, the program is now going to solve a local segment to segment linker optimization problem, and it's going to create new links of these mitotic events. So you click OK and wait for the process to start, and it now started with 452 tracks and new tracks for 449. So now let's go and see in the lineage tree the tracks that it actually found and how do they compare with the LAP tracking that we did before. So again, I'm now searching for dividing tracks and seeing what is the result of using this algorithm. So here's one. Okay, this kind of looks like apoptosis, right? But it's okay because in apoptosis the cell also kind of splits into multiple fragments, so it's fine. then we have another one over here, and this is the cell on the bottom left, kind of like in the middle. Maybe I can just zoom in here to make it more clear. The cell that I'm following is this one, and the frame to frame linking here is done again using TrackMate. So we assume that that part is correct, and then let's follow this cell to see when it actually divides. So it's over here on the now top left. So it's this cell in the box that I'm following now. It's a huge track, and now apparently it's supposed to divide. So it divides into two, and now you can see that not only is it important for your tracker to identify when the cell actually divides, it is also important that it follows the correct cell after division. So these are the two daughter cells that it will then follow in time. So this is actually a good track, a long and good one, where it found the mother cell and then found the proper pair of the daughter cells to follow. And this is another one. Again, I'm going to just zoom in this region. So this is a cell, and it apparently divides here, and these are the two daughters. So the cell moves a lot in Z, and then you can only follow maybe one of them after it splits up. So this is what happens here. So that kind of depends upon the image quality. And now I found another of these tracks. So the cell that I'm following now is at the bottom, this one. Just gonna zoom out. So keep an eye for this cell, and now we are following this in the lineage tree or the track scheme, and it is supposed to divide here, so which is kind of true. It assumes the kind of metaphase shape, and then it splits. And again, so the good point is that you have found the mother cell, then you have found these two daughter cells, and now whatever happens after this, once you're following these cells, is going to be correct. So you don't have to correct for these kind of mistakes, because how I'm doing it here is like I identify the position of the mother cell from ONeat. Then I ask ONeat to take this mother cell and look in the next frame what are the closest cells that can be linked based upon the size constraint and the distance. And then based upon the cost that the local segment to segment linker calculates, it is able to find proper links to make between the mother and the daughter cells. So you have then nice long lineage trees where the mitotic cells have been identified correct. Right, so now since this is actually my ground truth tracking data, where I have the ground truth for this these cells, what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this into a CTC format, because now I want to evaluate how accurate this particular tracking is using the metrics of tracking, and these metrics of tracking come from cell tracking challenge. So I'm going to save in CTC format these results, which are simple LAP tracker plus ONeat. Then I'm going to save just the LAP tracker results, just the simple LAP tracker results, and I'm also going to do a tracking where I will take the LAP tracker and then correct it with ONeat without splitting, with splitting, and then out of all of these metrics, I can draw some conclusion that what is the best methodology that you can follow to get most accurate tracks. From just from my guess, I'm saying, but I have to verify this. It seems that the mode that I use now, which is simple LAP tracking plus ONeat would probably have the highest performing metrics, but let's verify this by actually calculating the metrics, which I'm going to do now. So thank you for watching, and if you have questions about ONEAT or TrackMate-oneat, please leave your comments below and I'm happy to take any questions. Have a nice day. Bye bye. See you.